Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another hurricane outlook and discussion here. We haven't had one in a while now that we've been tracking these eyes for almost over a week. So this is going to be a hurricane outlook discussion to see whether we can have an active rest of August here. August is getting very close to that peak of the hurricane season here. September 10th to September 11th is when we reach the peak for the Atlantic hurricane season. And that's next month. We're already in August, so can we see the rising climax, the rising action in August? That's exactly the question here. We're going to be looking at the favorable conditions, including SSTs, the water convective energy here, the new NOAA outlook, wind shear, moisture, all of that, saying whether it's going to be extremely favorable, whether we're going to have possibly an active MDR this month. Also, if this MJO can come into the western hemisphere by the end of the month. That's exactly what we're really looking for here, to possibly see a possibly very active August. We already had Isaias. Now we're possibly going to watch maybe Josephine, maybe even Kyle for this month. Before we end the video, please subscribe if you're new. Show your awesome support. We've been getting a ton of support within the past coming days. I will do a video on the winter and fall week later this evening, so stay tuned for that. Hit the like button as well. Hit the post notification icon so you get notified as soon as I do a tropical forecast. Without further ado, let's get into the tropical outlook. So here's looking at the National Hurricane Center. We actually do have a disturbance here of disturbed thunderstorms that are under between the tropical Atlantic here. So we have this possible tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa. The thing is, will this SAL get to it? That's the question here. So they actually just highlighted this a couple hours ago. There it is at a 10% chance for the next 5 days. So very, very low, not extreme confidence as of now, because there will be some drier to the north and to the west. Will it get to it? That's the question here. I'm not really worried about this right now, but I'm really worried about as we get into mid-August. We can definitely see many systems that can develop between this MDR region and this MDR, and that could bring in a very active threat for portions of the western Atlantic. So if we have a strengthening La Niña and a more organized MDR, that will bring in very extreme threats for these areas that can come into the western Atlantic here. That can bring in big impacts for the Gulf, the Caribbean, the southeastern coast. So we're really going to have some big threats. As of now, this is just a 10% chance, but this is just basically what the National Hurricane Center has right now. I do see multiple chances of tropical waves that can develop a couple storms here, whether they're successful or not. Maybe we can have a bust like Gonzalo, or maybe we can have a big storm in the Caribbean this year. Maybe our first major hurricane this month. That's exactly what we're watching for. But now let's go check out the new NOAA outlook. So this is the new NOAA outlook. They just updated, as you can tell, August 6th. So this is actually yesterday. As you see, they predict now 19 to 25 named storms, which means they are predicting we get to the Greek named storms. There are 19 named storms for the regular season, but after 19, that's when we get to the Greek named storms. This is actually a very big threat. We're just 3 named storms from the 2005 season. 2005 had 28 named storms, and they're predicting at most 25 as of now. So this is actually the only thing that's actually updated here. They still show 7 to 11 hurricanes, and they still show 36 majors. I think that's pretty reasonable. 1 to 3 category 5s. And then look at this, named storms. I think this might be maybe 4 to 7 major hurricanes instead of 3 to 6. I think that will increase here. But this is actually very big. 19 to 25 named storms. That will be a very active season. As you see, they predict an 85% chance for above normal season. So they're predicting a 85% chance for a hyperactive season that will have above average activity, above average named storms, hurricanes, and major hurricanes. A 10% chance, only a 10% chance for near normal, and a 5% chance for below normal. So as you see, confidence has definitely increased. I think last time it was like a 70% chance, not to the 85. Look at that. The National Hurricane Center and NOAA is very, very confident for this to be a very hyperactive season. We already have 9 named storms before mid-August, which is impressive. We saw our first eye ever in the history of the Atlantic hurricane season. Our first eye before August, Isaias there, and of course it really it was devastating for the East Coast corridor. But let's go and check out now the amount of name storms we have had and how many we have left. As you see, we've had Arthur, Bertha, Cristobal, Dolly, Edward, Faye, Gonzalo, Hannah, and Isaias. That is crazy. Look at all those names that have been crossed off. And this is only August 7th. We have Josephine, Kyle, Laura, Marco, and Anna, Omar, Paulette, Reen, Sally, Teddy, Vicky, and Wilfred all left. That's a very impressive sight to see here. You don't see this often whatsoever. Last time we saw this was 2005. Extremely active. Actually, if you compare 2005 to right now, if you compare August 7th, 2005 to August 7th, 2020, 2020 is so far more active than 2005 ever has been as of this mark on August 7th. If this continues, if we continue to see this progress in 2020 for the rest of the season, we can very well see over 28 name storms. I would not rule out the possibility if we are going on the roll and at the track and at the process we're at right now, where we've had Arthur, Bertha, Cristobal, Dolly, Edward, Faye, Gonzalo, Hannah, and Isaias all before August. Isaias was before August, if you guys know that. I think we can have Josephine, Kyle, Laura, Marco, and maybe Nana before September. That is crazy to think about. I think Nana's a bit we'll see about Nana, but I think we can definitely get to Marco before September 1st. And then we can very well see Greek name storms, in my opinion, before mid-October. I think before October we can very well see Greek name storms, and that's a very big concern, because if we do get Greek name storms before or right in the beginning of October, that means we'll have over 19, and we still have October, November to come. And with 2020, it is very, very favorable for to have an active November, and there's maybe a chance we can have 1 or 2 early December name storms. That is not the first time that has happened. It could very well happen. So yeah, this could very well happen. I think we will have a very hyperactive season from now on to the first week of November, and then we can have some maybe 1 to 3 name storms in the after first week of November, and then maybe one in the we can have 1 or 2 name storms maybe December. We'll see. Really, December's a little pushy at this moment, but really, if you look at the conditions as far as December, it seems very favorable, especially for the Caribbean. So I think we can very well see Greek name storms. Maybe we get Greek name storms in December, maybe we get Greek name storms in October. So really watching out, we have a very big threat here. August, October is when we have 95% of the hurricanes to form. So we have a lot of the activity left to come. The fact that we have 9 name storms before even getting close to the peak of the hurricane season is mental. This is the first time we've had 9 name storms before by July, which is absolutely crazy. The fact that we've done this. So this is a very now time to plan for extremely active rest of the season. This is going to bring in a ton more of name storms, a ton of activity left. But let's go and check out now something else. So here's what we have so far. Of course, the first name storm, we had Arthur. Arthur, of course, did just skim the Outer Banks right there. Did not make a landfall, though. And then not too long after, we had Bertha, which made landfall in South Carolina as a tropical storm. We had Arthur and Bertha. Both skin, if not make landfall in the southeast. So we had the first 2 name storms were bringing activity for the southeast. Then we had a Cristobal, which had a very weird looking track. It did like a boomerang like turn, and then of course hit the New Orleans area. That was Cristobal. Now as we look at Cristobal, then we had Dolly. Dolly did not hit any land. After Dolly, we had Edward, which did not hit any land as well. After Edward, Faye. So far, Faye, before Isaias, Faye was the most catastrophic. And, Cristobal was actually the brought the most damage and actually most expensive storm so far this year. And then Faye came in and hit the tri-state area. Very rare to see a early named storm to hit the tri-state area, the tropical storm. You don't see that often. After Faye, Gonzalo. It was the biggest bust so far the Atlantic hurricane season. We had Gonzalo. That really it kind of just fell apart, really, as a 65-mile-an-hour storm, I think, 65. Hannah came after. The first hurricane of the Atlantic hurricane season, formed in the central Gulf of Mexico and made landfall just after Corpus Christi as a Category 1, almost a Category 2 hurricane here. Let me actually refresh this. And then after that, we had Isaias, a 85-mile-an-hour hurricane, which was a very long-track named storm, one like this, just spared Florida and made landfall in Ocean Isle Beach in North Carolina. So the watch for is that we're going now to a Niña. If you get the Niña 3.4 index region, you see now we are nearing La Niña status. All the way up in late July, we were up to a positive neutral. Now, look how much we've dropped since then. We're now at negative 0.360, almost at negative 0.4. We all know that La Niña status is below or at negative 0.5. We are really nearing that point, and we all know La Niñas on average bring in more hyperactive seasons or more active seasons compared to El Nino. So La Niña, if we get to this La Niña status very soon here, that's going to be a big threat because we have this La Niña status. If we technically had that negative 0.5 before September, that would be a big threat. Not only we are going to be at the peak of the season, we're going to be at the peak of the season at the La Niña, which is the most favorable out of three, neutral or an El Nino, to bring in hyperactive seasons. So this is a big threat. We are definitely dropping off significantly as waters cool off in the central and eastern Pacific in the El Nino 3.4 index region there. But really getting a lot lower. So if we get to that La Niña status, that would be a big threat for October, November, maybe even December really as well. So could very well see a very active season left to come. We have yet to get to the worst of the season, which is weird to think and scary to think about. We have yet to even get to the worst of the season or even close. We're in early August. On average, July sees one named storm, and on average, June sees half a named storm. It's a weird thing that we had 9 named storms by July, and on average, we usually see 2 or 3 by July. So the fact that we have not reached our peak yet, it's quite scary that we still have all of August to come. Much of August, all September, all October, all November, and maybe a teeny little bit of December left to come. Here's a now look at the SSTs, the current SSTs here for the Northern Atlantic, or sea surface temperatures anomaly here. So these change every single day. But look at this. Very warm Western Atlantic right now. Very, very warm. Getting extremely warm now for portions of the Western Caribbean and much of the Gulf from Mexico to Florida. We are seeing a little cooler temperatures here, but slightly cooler, less than a degree below average. Less than a degree Celsius below average. So really not a huge significant difference here. It's not like extremely cold, but this won't do much actually. This slightly just less than a degree Celsius below average, that won't do much, but really the really big area where we need to worry about is once it gets past the tropical Atlantic and goes in the Western Atlantic, the big threat is, will it really just strengthen a lot, do that northwestern turn with the trade winds? Will it go a slightly northwest and turn, go straight west? That's exactly the big threat, because we're going to have very warm waters right here in the Western Atlantic, really big threats. We're seeing up to 2 degrees Celsius above average, and then right here around this less than a degree above average. And these averages in these areas are warm enough, but when you add on to it, that's a really big threat, especially as we still have yet to have the warmest water. September It's a peak for a reason. That's when we have the warmest waters, the warmest waters, on average, less amount of shear, and that's exactly when storms really thrive in the Atlantic, or the northern Atlantic. Here's now a look at the weather models. I don't really check out SSTs on here, but not SSTs, but just seeing weather being above average temperatures of the waters here. As you see, we are seeing a big area right here in the Caribbean here that can be seeing some warmer waters. We have a lot of averages. As you see, a lot of averages, or just slightly above average. It's going to the next 72 hours. So you're going to start seeing a very big warm up now for the western Atlantic portion of the Caribbean, eastern Gulf of Mexico. That's a big threat. This is 11th of August. Going to be possibly seeing around 3 to 4 degrees of Fahrenheit above average. It's a big threat here as well. Going to be seeing very little cool waters. I didn't notice we're going to be seeing average or slightly above average temperatures. We don't really see that many regions that are seeing slightly below average. So we're going to be seeing a general very warm Atlantic, which is going to be a big threat. As we now get in the 16th of August, we're going to be seeing some really warm waters now for the tropical Atlantic. Very warm waters now for the southeastern coast and portion of the Gulf, of the eastern Gulf. And this is going to be a big threat. We're seeing very little amounts of cooler water, which means we're going to be seeing a thriving warm water region. Those warm waters will really be significant in the MDR region here. Going to be seeing this main development region here. Really big threat, especially if we have warmer waters and a strengthening La Niña. Here's now a look at the real-time temperatures. We hear the SSTs, but actually the surface temperatures here to see a number-wise. Look at this. Really a very big threat here right now. A very big threat. I believe we saw Harvey in August. We're in August, and look at this. 31 degrees Celsius now blowing up across the Gulf of Mexico. We have 31 degrees Celsius off the Big Bend, Florida area. 31 for the western area. This is a big threat. The Gulf of Mexico and the western Caribbean is blowing up with warm SST. If something develops right here, that would be significant. We're seeing we're seeing almost the whole Gulf is seeing over 30 degrees Celsius, and you know what that means? Extreme threats, very warm waters. Look at this. The MDR is really seeing a big area of warm waters. As you know, to sustain a hurricane, you need over 26 degrees Celsius. As you see, we have in this whole main developed region, we are seeing over 26 degrees Celsius. Our lowest is 27 degrees, so really favorable for the MDR. The thing is, maybe they don't thrive here. They develop here, maybe become a disturbance. The big threat is when they come here in the western Atlantic. That's when all these storms thrive. Don't expect to have a hurricane in the MDR or the tropical Atlantic. Expect to have a hurricane right here. That's where we're going to be expected to have a hurricane. Very warm waters now, seeing almost 30 degrees Celsius just out of the Bahamas. Seeing 29 to 30 degrees Celsius for the Caribbean. Seeing some water starting to blow up here for the southeastern coast here. But the thing is, after Isaias came through the southeastern coast, it did cool off some of the waters because Isaias took a lot of the energy. And as you see, they went from 30 degrees Celsius to now seeing 27 degrees Celsius, 28 degrees Celsius, 29 degrees Celsius. Isaias did take a lot of the energy away. But ever since Hannah came by the Gulf of Mexico, it's just blown up in energy. Extremely warm waters. So the big threat is when systems do come to the western Atlantic, it's very favorable that they blow up into a hurricane. That's exactly the big threat here. They can very well develop here if the MDR becomes more favorable as this strengthening La Niña comes in. It's going to bring in less shear, less dry air, less SAL, and warmer waters. And then let's say that they do somewhat become a tropical from the NDR. Imagine what it will be once you get to the western Atlantic. That's the really big concern, especially as we are nearing the peak of the hurricane season. Ocean heat content. This is basically the amount of energy in the ocean that we have just compacted in the water. How much energy is stored, basically. As you see, we're seeing a ton of stored energy here in the Atlantic. So when a hurricane or tropical system comes through, it'll blow up in energy. So as you see, the western Atlantic, between the areas of the Cancun area, the western Atlantic, they're in the kind of the western Caribbean, the Jamaica area, Cuba, these general areas here, we're seeing a ton of compact ocean heat content. So if anything does come here, anything comes right here, let's say it does form in the MDR or something like that, and it goes right over here and towards the Gulf or something like that, that would be a big threat. That's going to be a very big threat for major storms to develop if this heat content stays the way it is. We're going to be seeing extreme amounts of compounded energy because due to these very huge increase in warm waters. So if something does come in right here, that would be a big threat. It doesn't have to be this impressive and this high to actually have a big threat. We also have some little area right here as well for the Bay of Campeche. We also have a little area right here between the Florida Keys and also the Bahamas. And even a teeny little area right there in the tropical Atlantic. But really, that's too close to the equator to actually have anything whatsoever. I believe that's actually right over the equator. So obviously you can't have anything developing the equator. So that's really not going to be a big threat there. It's going to be right here. Instead, we're going to be seeing the really high heat ocean heat content, which can be a big threat, especially as the heat content could very well actually get a lot worse as we get closer towards September. You're going to see that heat content becoming a lot worse. As you see, let's check out another area right here. As you see, tropical cyclone heat potential just updated today at 10:04 a.m. As you see, we're seeing very high tropical cyclone heat content throughout the Caribbean. This is a big threat. As you know, the Caribbean is going to become a really big hotspot for this season. And as we get near as we get further into August, this is going to increase the big threat because it'd be easier to have hurricanes in August than it is to have it in June or May. Look at that. Look how high this tropical cyclone heat content is right here. Very high as well. So if we actually have a storm that develops right here, and it does go like this, that'll be a huge threat because it'll go through extreme amounts of tropical cyclone heat content potential and content, and that will make it blow up. Very warm SST is going to have very warm marks as far as meters down the ocean. It's going to be very warm, extremely warm and variable. So if any storm just goes through right here, it'll blow up. So if we do have it like what Gonzalo was supposed to do, Gonzalo was obviously supposed to go like this. If it did what Gonzalo was supposed to do, that would have meant it would be a major storm. So maybe if PTC 9 did not go where it did and it actually went like this instead, that would have been a big threat. So really, we've kind of avoided very big storms because of tracks. Gonzalo went to south, and Isaias went to north. And we avoided this whole area right here. So Isaias or Gonzalo could have been very big, but they avoided this very big areas of huge and high tropical cyclone heat potential or content, which would have made it blow up. So we could have very well had our major hurricane already so far if Isaias or Gonzalo did not get affected by the dry air. Because that dry air really is right here where that dry air kind of took these storms apart in the Lesser Antilles. And then obviously Isaias thrived after that, and Gonzalo just fell apart after that, and it made it go down to the south. So really, if any storms do go like this, and they took that traditional northwestern turn, that'll be a big threat, especially as it becomes more September. This tropical cyclone heat potential will spread into the Gulf, will spread into the Caribbean, more into the Caribbean, and it will spread here as well. So we're going to be seeing big threats as we get towards September. Let's check out now the tropical cyclone here, 800 to 200 vertical shear here. As you see, since let's say ever since January, we've had a huge decrease in shear on average. We're now, look at this, on average 9 to 12 knots here, up to 15 knots, we're under 18 knots here, guys. We're under 18 knots. Look at how low the shear has gone. And the scary thought is, look at this. Look at this. Look where it'll get at its lowest. September and October, which are the peaks of the hurricane season. Obviously, September is, but from August to October is when we see that huge our peak of activity. And look at this. We're going to be seeing the lowest amount of shear during that time. So that's a very big threat. That's actually a very huge threat. And obviously, as we get into winter, that shear will increase. And obviously, if it increases, it is what it is. Because it will be the Atlantic hurricane ends November 31st. So after that point, you don't really expect anything to happen. But this season, I think this shear could very well kind of get lower as we gradually go. That's going to bring some decent threats for November. But really big threat. Look at how low that shear was in July. And we saw, 5 named storms, I believe. We saw 5? Yeah, we saw 5, I think. Yeah, 5 in July. And look, it gets even lower. It gets lower than where it was in July. So July was right here, basically. July is there. Actually, let me do like a smaller dot. So July was right here, shear, and this is what we're gonna be seeing with September and October. Look, compare this. Lower. I have to say that's actually a very bad line. Look how much lower that shear is. It's a big threat. I know it's kind of just less than 3 knots away, 3 knots, but it's going to be September and October when we see that lowest amount of numbers, which is a very big threat, extreme threat actually. So this year continues to go lower and lower and lower as we get in the higher amounts of activity, strengthening La Niña, more organized NBR, incoming MJO. End of August, much of September and October will actually be extreme. And I mean extremely active and big, major hurricanes. It's going to be a very big threat as we now get past mid-August. Expect big systems a lot more frequently than we usually do, and possibly big impacts for the United States in the Caribbean. So like I was saying, September is the first season peak. Look at this. Look at May. We saw Arthur and Bertha in May. Look at the activity there. Just look at that. Look at this compared to the peak. Just compare that. And we saw 2 named storms in May. In May, you rarely say names. You rarely see named storms in May. Look at June. Kind of see teeny little peak in June. Honestly, not even close to the season peak whatsoever. But it increased in June. July actually gets a lot worse, actually. But as you get to August, look, we're right here. We're right here in August. Right here. And look where the season is. The season peak. We're really, really close. September is when you see that very big peak. September right there. Big. See the hurricane probability just increased a ton compared to August, and all storms absolutely just increase the max. We are on a rising climate. We're in the rising action. We're slowly getting to that action. Yet we've had 9 named storms by July. So imagine September, and then on average, then the peak kind of goes down a little bit, and then we have our second peak there in October. I don't think we're gonna decrease like this in this season. I think we're gonna go up to the peak, maybe go down like this, and then stay up like that, and then gradually go down. I don't see us going to the peak and then boom, and then a little peak. With what we've seen so far, I see it's going to that big peak in September, going down a little bit, and then going back up like this, and then gradually going down. That's what I see this year. That'll be November, that'll be December, that'll be October, that'll be September. That's exactly what I think could very well happen. Shortly, we're now going to be looking at here the GFS, now relative humidity, see if there's actually any big incoming tropical wave we need to worry about here. Like I said, we are going to be seeing here that disturbance we have right now there, GFS and icon shows something, but as you see, it's not that big of a tropical wave, and we have a huge amount of dry air to the north and to the west of the storm. So if it does become anything, it'll kind of possibly fall apart. So I don't see anything really being a big threat for that storm, really. Like I said, I don't see anything big into the kind of mid-August thing. Although I really am seeing some big some potential right here. We are seeing some moisture here with actually that has spin. You can see this thing does have a lot of helicity and have of vorticity as well. That's something to maybe worry about. GFS is at 1,008 millibars. You know, just that dryer does kind of weaken at that point. That could be something to really worry about as well. But look at August 23rd. August 23rd is really going to bring in a big threat. Now, this could very well be a huge tropical wave. Look at the dryers, kind of dryer. It's definitely weakening. But let's not check out the MDR as well. Let's check out now the Gulf. As you see, we're going to be seeing some decent conditions for August 11th. We're going to be seeing major dry air. But as you see, the Caribbean, although we'll see extreme dry air, Caribbean could maintain quiet until that point. we are seeing some moisture right here across the southeastern coast. That's how Arthur and Bertha developed. That's something to really maintain. Obviously, we just can't we can't just look at the MDR and that's it. We also got to take a look at the Gulf. As you see, August 16th, we don't have any dryer whatsoever, really. We are seeing more moisture than dryer in the Gulf, so that's also the big threat for the Gulf. But look at this, August 19th, something really interesting right here. We are seeing a circular-like moisture bubble that has a low pressure system. See, there's that low pressure system right there. That's that's a big threat, and it could possibly go in the eastern Gulf. That's something we need to really worry about there. But obviously, it's days out, if not weeks out. But we're just going to really keep a close eye on these systems right here. Here's now a look at shear. As you see in the next 48 hours, we're seeing very little shear around these areas. As you see, all the way from the Africa coast to this whole area region, we are seeing very little shear, less than 30 knots, as well as seeing almost no shear whatsoever with Isaias passing by. We have almost 0 knots in these general areas. So really, shear-wise, we aren't seeing that much, but the thing is that dry air, that massive amount of dry air. We're going to be seeing actually a big threat, though. August 13th, we're going to be seeing up to little to no shear for the northern Gulf and southeastern coast. And those areas have tended to had a lot of storms and activity so far this year. So we really got to maintain a big threat there. And as we now get all the way up to August 17th, we're having almost no shear whatsoever in the MDR and tropical Atlantic, as we saw. We saw that shear was going to be dying down from now on to all the way up to November. It's a big threat as well. Look at this, the southeastern coast and the Gulf almost having no shear as we are nearing that strengthening La Niña. The closer we get to the La Niña, the less shear we'll be seeing and the less dry air we'll be seeing. So I just made this here. This is my forecast here. As you see, I'm gonna go ahead and explain this. In the red, we are possibly seeing way above average activity. This is from now on to November 31st. So obviously to the end of the hurricane season. As you see, if you're in the red, you're gonna be seeing way above average activity. So a lot more named storms, more hurricanes, it's a lot more activity. That's gonna be including areas of the Lesser Antilles, a lot of the Caribbean there, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, those general very well-known islands that get hit by hurricanes. 2017, for example. And then look, way above average activity, and then that's going to be stretching from the North Carolina coast to Louisiana. So I think for U.S.-wise, I think the biggest threats for landfall will be for the southeastern coast to the eastern and central Gulf. I really think we're going to be seeing a ton of activity here for these areas, Cuba, all the way from central Louisiana to the southern North Carolina coast. I think we'll be seeing way above average activity. I think we already got Cristobal. Cristobal hit eastern Louisiana. We also had Arthur, Bertha. We had Isaias. Those have hit the southeast, or if not affected the southeast there. So really big threats, and this will be from now on to end of November. So this will possibly be my map I'll be using here. I do feel it very well. I feel very confident here. People have been saying, oh, the Western Gulf will be extremely active this year. I just don't see it. I think we'll see what this is traditional northwestern turn we usually see with the trade winds. I think these storms will go out in the Gulf and then turn up to the northwest and hit the Louisiana to Florida area. I think that's where we're seeing a big threat. Texas, got Hannah, but I'm not saying they're not gonna get any activity. I'm saying I just think it's not gonna be as bad as you guys think. I think it'd be above. I think the Western Gulf and Western Caribbean could be slightly above to moderately above average activity. That's going to be from the Grenada area all the way up into the Western Gulf. So the Yucatan Peninsula, Bay of Campeche, Western Caribbean and Western Gulf, including Texas and Western Louisiana. And then I also see above average activity here for portions of the Eastern Corridor. So all the way from North Carolina up to Maine and Nova Scotia, I think we'd be very well see above average activity. We saw obviously Faye, we saw Dog, we saw Edward in these areas. So that's also going to be seeing some big threats. We also had Isaias that affected the northeastern areas. Obviously, it didn't make a landfall there, but it did affect those areas. I think we'd be very well seeing above average activity from North Carolina up to the Nova Scotia area. I think if any area will be seeing less activity, I think will be around Nova Scotia. But I think we're seeing some big impacts for North Carolina, the tri-state area again, the Mid-Atlantic. I think you guys, as we get closer to the peak, will have more and more activity. And just because you're well above activity doesn't mean you're going to get a landfall necessarily. It just means there's going to be more activity in this general region. So when I say is there going to be above activity for the northeastern coast, it doesn't necessarily mean landfall. It just means possibly a skinning or maybe a direct landfall. It's going to be either one there, but we're seeing above average activity between these cones, well above average activity in this cone, and slightly to moderately above average activity in this cone. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and bye guys.